Israel is on the verge of redesigning the regional map in the Middle East. The IDF is clearing Hezbollah positions all over southern Lebanon, while also preparing for a significant response to the Iranian missile attack. According to intelligence sources, Nasrallah's designated successor was eliminated in an attack in Dakhia, but hundreds of rockets continue to be fired into Israel from Lebanon every day. The IDF has also returned the maneuvering in the northern Gaza Strip, and in the midst of all that, they managed to rescue a Yazidi woman who had been kidnapped by ISIS and trafficked into Gaza. We've got a lot of ground to cover today, so let's dive into the details. I'm Yair Pinto, and this is your Boots on the Ground report about what is happening in Israel on the 364th day of the war against Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, and all the Shiite militias in Iraq and Syria, all of which are acting under the command of Iran, which is the head of the axis of evil in the Middle East. Before we start, please take a second to press the subscribe button so that you will never miss another episode of Boots on the Ground. Over the weekend, the Israeli Air Force dropped 73 tons worth of bunker-busting bombs on a bunker in the El Marjia in the district of Dakhia, which was defined as the main intelligence headquarters of Hezbollah in Lebanon. According to intelligence assessments, Hashem Safi al-Din, who was a top candidate to succeed the late Hassan Nasrallah as Hezbollah's leader, was in the compound at that time. Several other surviving members of the organization's senior leadership were also there at the time of the attack. In a related development, the IDF announced that it had eliminated the head of Hezbollah's communication system, Muhammad Rashid Shakafi. According to the IDF, this is a veteran terrorist who served as the head of the liaison system since 2000, was close to Hezbollah officials, and gained a lot of experience and authority in the Hezbollah organization. He will be very difficult for them to replace, as will all the other senior operatives that Hezbollah has lost recently. According to the New York Times, at the time of the attack in Dakhia, a meeting of Hezbollah officials was held at the intelligence headquarters. At the moment, the results of the attack are still unclear, as Hezbollah is not making any announcements, but Israeli intelligence agencies believe it is very likely that everyone who was in the bunker at the time was at least seriously wounded. The IDF also attacked the El Masana civilian border crossing between Syria and Lebanon over the weekend, and smuggling tunnels like the ones Hamas dug under the border in Rafah have also been hit in order to try and slow the Iranian effort to supply Hezbollah with weapons and ammunitions. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to report on these issues going forward. To stay updated in real time, go to our website at www.tbnisrael.com/news. Tomorrow, we mark exactly 1 year to the October 7th attacks, and millions of people all over the world, both Jews and Gentiles, will mourn together. This was the worst attack on Jewish people since the Holocaust, and the enemy meant for it to be the beginning of the end for Israel, but God had other plans. Here at TBN Israel, we will bring you a special report covering the events of last year, including the tragedies, but also the triumphs, and above all, the miracles that testify to God's faithfulness. Please join us for this powerful special event tomorrow on TBN Israel. Now let's get back to the news. The achievements of the IDF have come at a price, including several casualties, but during the first 4 days of targeted activities in Lebanon, according to the IDF, more than 500 terrorists were eliminated, including 21 field commanders. The IDF spokesperson's unit announced that among the commanders who were eliminated, there are 5 at the rank of battalion commanders, 10 company commanders, and 6 division commanders. In addition, the army estimates that the entire area of southern Lebanon has been evacuated, and in total, about 600,000 have left and arrived north from the Litani River. The forces operate in southern Lebanon in the formation of brigade attacks, which combine air activity alongside tanks and artillery. The cleaning operations are very similar to what the IDF had to do in the Gaza Strip, including engagements with terrorists, capturing and destroying stockpiles of weapons and ammunition, rocket launchers, tunnels, and bunkers. Some Hezbollah positions are out in the open, but most are inside built-up areas, inside villages. One statement from the IDF said, "We scan and find much more than what we knew. We located dozens of large weapons warehouses. We found many underground infrastructures beyond what we knew that existed, including 40 to 50 meter supply tunnels, and we started destroying these infrastructures." The paratroopers brigade neutralized 15 terrorists who were hiding in the last day, according to the army. Meanwhile, the Air Force is also hard at work, operating above and around the ground forces at all hours of the day and night. It often starts with preemptive strikes against military targets to soften them up for the ground forces to move in and finish the job. Intelligence collection and real-time battlefield planning and coordination also takes place and have contributed to the successful destruction of over 2,000 Hezbollah positions. We should note that Israel, for its part, sends messages to citizens in Lebanon before it attacks in certain areas. Just last week, a number of which warnings were issued to residents in and around the Dahya district of southern Beirut, where Israel attacked significant ammunition depots. In the same district, a number of senior Hezbollah officials have been assassinated in targeted airstrikes in recent weeks. According to Air Wars, a website that collects data on airstrikes in conflict zones, Israel's bombings, which it says are aimed at Hezbollah strongholds, mark the most intense air campaign in the world outside of Gaza in 2 decades. This is reinforced by reports in Arab media portals saying that airstrikes were carried out at various locations throughout Lebanon during the night, including 12 different attacks in Beirut, an attack on a Palestinian refugee camp near the city of Tripoli in northern Lebanon, and attacks in the Bekaa region, as well as attacks in southern Lebanon. So please continue to help us share the truth by subscribing to this YouTube channel, sharing our videos, and following us on social media. Now, before we continue, I want to introduce you to our new sponsors. They say that in hard times, you discover who your real friends are. In Israel's darkest hour, Franklin Graham and Samaritan's Purse stepped up immediately, showing true love for the Jewish people. Their swift response included providing vital ambulances and food supplies to those in desperate need. This is what it means to stand with Israel in action, not just words. Samaritan's Purse is doing amazing work all over the world, even in the American Southwest, where they're helping with the Hurricane Helene disaster, not just physically, but also spiritually. And you can be part of this crucial mission. So please visit samaritanpurse.org/TBN or call 1-800-789-1070 and give generously. Your support for Samaritan's Purse means real, life-changing blessing for Israeli families. Thank you, and now back to the news. IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari declared, "We are pushing Hezbollah in the north," and added details about eliminating terrorists and destroying infrastructure. This includes a 250-meter-long tunnel near the northern border, which was discovered by special operations units during the cross-border operations carried out in recent weeks. Before it was destroyed, the tunnel was searched and found to contain large quantities of weapons and ammunition, supplies, and plans for attacks that were ready to launch whenever the Hezbollah leadership gave the order. There were also impressive accommodations for the terrorists, including showers, food storage facilities, and kitchen to prepare meals. Hagari, the IDF spokesperson, also referred to the Iranian missile attack last week and the planned Israeli response, saying, "There were hits at the Air Force bases in Nevatim and Tel Nof, but the Air Force's ability to operate was not damaged." Immediately after the attack, Air Force planes continued to attack throughout the Middle East and are still attacking now. The response to Iran will be in a manner, place, and time that we will decide in accordance with the guidance of the political echelon. He added that this week we will mark the anniversary of the war and the 7th of October. We are prepared for that Memorial Day on the assumption that the terrorist organizations will try to carry out attacks and are conducting a situation assessment. The forces are deployed at a very high level of readiness. This is a good place to explain some things about the fighting in Lebanon. Although there are similarities to the tactical situations in Gaza, there are also some important differences. To start, unlike the Hamas terrorists in Gaza, who usually ran away when the IDF approached and then tried to fire at us from a distance, the Hezbollah fighters usually stand their ground and engage in close quarters battles, sometimes even face to face. The paratroopers brigade reported 6 such encounters where the fighting was literally at point-blank range in the first few days of the battle. The 36th and the 98th divisions have also been deployed and have made similar reports about engagements with Hezbollah fighters in their sectors. Hezbollah is paying a steep price for using these methods, as more than 250 terrorists were eliminated in the first few days of ground combat. In all cases, they were defeated and pushed back, often with heavy casualties. Admittedly, these Hezbollah squads are small, sometimes only including a single terrorist left to guard his position alone. The IDF uses drones to probe these positions, often drawing fire, which shows them where the terrorists are. Remember that these IDF soldiers have a great deal of experience in these kinds of fighting over the past year in the Gaza Strip. Hezbollah fighters are highly trained but not as experienced. They have also lost whatever benefit that they might had from the experience their leaders, many of whom have already been eliminated, received while fighting a very different kind of war in Syria over the past decade. The IDF recognizes that the Hezbollah operatives remaining in the border area are trying as much as possible to survive and to act only if they recognize closely and with certainty that the IDF soldiers are coming. They are not eager to engage the IDF, preferring to wait to fight until they have no choice. However, when they do fight, they are dangerous, and since the start of the ground incursion into South Lebanon, 9 IDF soldiers have been killed in action. So please continue to spread the truth, share our videos on YouTube, and follow us on social media. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel. You can also support us that we can continue to bring you up-to-date and detailed content about what is happening in Israel through the donate button that you see on YouTube, or go to our website at tbnisrael.com/give. Switching our focus to the Gaza Strip, over the weekend, the Air Force attacked terrorists who were operating in a command and control complex in the area that was previously used as the Ibn Rashid School, as well as a command and control complex that was previously used as the Shahada al-Aqsa mosques, both in the neighborhood of Deir el-Balach in Gaza City. Residents of the Gaza Strip are reporting that the IDF ground forces have also entered Jabalia in the northern Gaza Strip in what appears to be the beginning of another maneuver in an area that has already experienced several such rounds in recent months. As of now, the IDF has no official confirmation of the reports. However, the Air Force announced over the weekend that it had hit Hamas terrorists attempting to hide in the UNRWA compound in Jabalia in the north of the Gaza Strip. The command and control complex was used by Hamas terrorists to plan and carry out terrorist operations against IDF forces and the State of Israel. The IDF clarified, emphasizing that before the attack, many steps were taken to reduce the chance of harming civilians, including the use of precision weaponry, aerial surveillance, and additional intelligence information. The IDF stated the terrorist organization Hamas systematically violates international law, brutally exploiting civilian institutions and the population as human shields for terrorist activities. The IDF will continue to act with strength and determination against the terrorist organizations that use the civilian institutions as shelter. A second before we move on to Mati Shoshani and get a picture of how and when Israel is preparing to respond to Iran, I would like to ask you to continue spreading the truth with us by sharing and by subscribing to this YouTube channel. We want to reach 1 million subscribers before the end of this year and reach more people with the truth about Israel. Now let me turn it over to senior TBN Israel analyst Mati Shoshani, for a closer look at the situation regarding Iran.
Thank you, Yair. Look, exactly 1 year ago, Israel suffered one of the 2 worst military defeats since the establishment of the state. After last week's ballistic missile attack from Iran, in which about 180 missiles were launched at Israel, Israel is still considering how and when to respond and what the retaliatory action will look like. One thing, of course, is certain: the response, when it comes, is expected to be unusually severe. The IDF said on Saturday that it will be serious and significant. It will not be a side event, end quote. The struggle against Iran is defined in the IDF as a direct struggle. Therefore, it is estimated that within the framework of the conflict outlined, Iran will not only act through its branches in Lebanon, Syria, Gaza, Yemen, and Iraq, but also in direct attacks as it happened last Tuesday. In the IDF, there is a broad recommendation to respond to the Iranian attack, while reducing the risks and expanding the opportunities. One of the main dilemmas in the response to Iran is also the question of the involvement of the American army and forces. Even before the missile attack was carried out, the Biden administration made it clear to Iran that a direct attack against Israel would be a serious mistake with grave consequences. A senior U.S. State Department official was quoted as saying that Israel did not give the U.S. guarantees that it would not attack Iran's nuclear facilities. Senior Iranian officials have also been making statements in recent days. On Friday, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei gave a rare sermon in one of Tehran's largest mosques, in which he attempted to project strength in the face of possible Israeli response. But in the end, his words merely illustrated Iran's dismal strategic situation, as he demonstrated his regime's deep dependence on Hezbollah, especially its slain leader, Hassan Nasrallah, to coordinate the regional activities of its so-called axis of resistance. These proxy terrorist organizations that Iran has built up over the past decades to deter Israel from directly confronting the Islamic Republic over its nuclear weapon program are visibly weakening. All this is leaving Iran isolated and exposed. Iran's owned armed forces have been neglected for decades and have little ability to project power far from the country's borders. The Iranian Air Force and Navy are composed of decades-old planes and ships, manned by pilots and crews who receive little training and are poorly motivated. The ground forces of the Islamic Republic are also in poor shape and must be kept at home in order to protect the regime from the Iranian people, who have suffered for decades under their tyrannical rule. Now, of course, Khamenei knows all of this, and this explains some of his bellicose rhetoric. But even as he was speaking, reports began to emerge that Israel had hit yet another meeting of senior Hezbollah officials. This time, the meeting also included Hashem Safi al-Din, a top candidate to replace the late Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah as a leader of Hezbollah. This is yet another severe blow to Iran's regional ambitions, especially their efforts to rehabilitate Hezbollah and continue to keep Lebanon in their iron grip. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on developments going forward. Now back to you, Yair.
Thanks, Mati. And guys, please continue to spread the truth by sharing our videos on YouTube and subscribing to this YouTube channel. You can also follow us on social media so that together we can let the world know what is happening in Israel. Now, to conclude, we have a sad story with a happy ending. This story illustrates the cruelty and barbarism of the Hamas terrorist organization that Israel is fighting against in the Gaza Strip. It is the story of Fawzia Amin Sido, 21 years of age, a young Yazidi girl who was kidnapped from her home in Iraq in 2014 when she was 11 years of age and trafficked by ISIS to the Gaza Strip, where she was used as a sexual slave for Hamas owners. She was liberated from this life of slavery by the IDF and returned to her family in Iraq only recently. It took a great deal of political and diplomatic cooperation between Israel and other regional countries, but she's finally home. According to various reports, after being kidnapped, Fawzia was taken from her home in Iraq to Syria, where she was bought by a Hamas operative supporting ISIS, who took her with him to the Gaza Strip. She was forced to bear him children, but he was killed in the fighting, and she was able to escape, hiding in the Gaza Strip until she was rescued by the IDF and taken into Israel, where she received medical care. From Israel, she was taken to Jordan via the Allenby Bridge crossing, and from Jordan, she was able to make her way back to her family in Iraq. An Israeli government statement said that for years, Fawzia was held captive by a Palestinian Hamas ISIS member. Now, she has been reunited with her family. Her story is a reminder of the cruelty faced by the Yazidi children who are taken without a choice, and there are still 101 Israelis being held hostage by Hamas in Gaza, many of them children. I want to conclude by paying my last respects to an Israeli hero who fell defending the country of Israel, Captain Ben Zion Falach, 21 years of age, a combat officer in the 202nd Battalion of the Parachuters Brigade, who fell on Wednesday in an encounter with terrorists. In the battles before that, 8 other IDF soldiers were killed in action, including 6 in the battle led by the Egoz unit and 2 more in the battle led by the Golani patrol fighters. In the Battle of Egoz, Eitan Yitzhak Oster, 22, team commander, fell. Captain Harel Ettinger, 23, team commander. Captain Itai Ariel Git, 23, an officer in the Yalam unit of the Combat Engineering Corps. Major Noam Barzilai, 22, a fighter in the Egoz unit. Or Mansour, 21 years of age, a fighter in the Egoz unit. Natzer Itkin, 21 years of age, a fighter in the Egoz unit. In the other incident, Sergeant Al-Makan Tarfat, 21 years of age, and Sergeant Ido Brewer, 21, from the Golani Patrol, fell. Here at TBN Israel, we will continue to update you on events going forward. So please keep spreading the truth, share, and follow us. And take a minute to find the subscribe button and click on it so you can subscribe to this YouTube channel. And more than that, I want to ask you guys to unite in prayer. Pray hard for the strength of the IDF soldiers. Pray for the peace of the residents of Israel and the return of the residents of the North. Pray for the return of the abductees home soon. Pray for the peace of Israel, and most importantly, don't forget to pray for the peace of Jerusalem.